now tuned in to Radio with Gibs.
Ladies and gentlemen, all my people, welcome to Radio with Gibs. It's your boy Steve Gibbs, Gibby Gibbs, or just Gibbs, whatever you may know me by, coming to you from a new state. Yes, indeed. I'm on the East Coast now. A lot has changed since we last talked. Good things though, everything is going real well. How y'all been? It has been a while since I checked in with any of you. I always say no matter what's going on, sometimes it might be a long time in between episodes, but I'm always going to try to get one in. And so, yeah, we back at it. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit out of my element right now because it's been so long since I've done this. And as you can also see, if you're watching the live view, I am in a new location. I just moved. So nothing's set up. I'm just in my little corner right now. And you know what? I actually like it. It reminds me of the early days when I was doing this. So nothing crazy going on. But anyway, yeah, we back. I've had a few people ask me if I was still doing podcasts, including my mother, who has listened to them from time to time. I have family that listens. And so, I didn't want to hold off any longer. So right now we are aiming to keep on doing this thing, and I'm a man of faith, I'm a man of God, so we just gonna keep praying on it, and we're gonna do what we do. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in to Radio Gibbs. Let's do a quick or not so quick update, because I'm sure some of you are wondering what's going on. So no longer in California. I was there for 11, almost 12 years. I had a really good run there. Spent most of my 20s in California, and the first few years of my 30s there. So overall, not a bad experience. There was a lot that happened while I was there. I mean, my son was born there. The things I went through in the military, being a flight engineer while I was there. I've talked about some of the relationships on here, not in depth, but, been through relationships, everything with my son's mom and whoever I dated after, and the traveling that I did. I mean, there was so much that happened in California. And I am just glad that, I was able to have that experience, and I'm glad to be here now. Still doing, I think I talked about it on the last episode when I was on with India, still doing the weightlifting thing. Had to slow down a little bit because of the move, but now that I'm settled back in, I can kind of get back to it, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool. Just flexing a little bit. Let's see. Still in the military. I know I got this luscious, lavish beard going on. But I've been kind of on like a moving/leave status, so I've been able to grow it out a little bit more. I got to cut it because I got to report into work. So, boo. So kind of not so much of a surprise, but definitely something that was very important to me, and something that I prayed on a lot, and something that I worked towards, but found out that I got promoted. So making my way to E7, Master Sergeant in the Air Force, something that I wanted to do before I retired. I thought that I was going to have to wait a little bit longer, but because of some of the stuff that I was able to get done, one of those things being I'm no longer a flight engineer. I'm not an aviator anymore. I'm a computer guy now. I do cyber. I, had to get into a different career field because I could no longer fly. So that's a thing. And fortunately, because of that change, one of those things that kind of pushed me into being able to get promoted. Now, what a lot of people don't see is behind the scenes, there was a lot going on that enabled that to happen. Okay, so this kind of gets into, or it actually does, it gets into what I want to talk about today. It really introduces that. So I think that people were, not everybody, but there were definitely, I can tell you, and they didn't have to say anything to me to tell me, there were definitely some people surprised that I got promoted, myself included. Now, I want to be very clear about this. I have gotten better about congratulating myself and telling myself good job, but I'm not going to sit here and act like this is the biggest thing or the hugest accomplishment in the world. It's a big thing for me. It's a big thing for a lot of people who are in my position and who are in the Air Force. But I'm not trying to present this as if I won the Nobel Peace Prize or some other prestigious huge thing, or that I just became the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Although, as Kobe Bryant would say, job's not finished. Sorry, I'm sitting here playing with this this bottle cap. Job's not finished. So, future is still very bright. With that being said, this was something that was very important to me and near and dear to me, and something that I wanted to accomplish, not only because I felt like I was ready for it, but because of what it does for me in my future in the Air Force and also outside, and some of the things that I'm able to kind of set myself up for after. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is not to gloat or brag on myself, but it's so that I can lead you all into what's really been on my heart for the last few months. And, I've noticed there are a lot of people around me, and I see it a lot on social media, who have accomplished a lot. And I want to take a quick moment to say shout out to all of you who have accomplished so much in the last couple of years, especially the last year specifically. I've seen so many posts with people getting master's degrees, people getting their law degrees. I've seen someone I went to school with who is now a judge. I think that was about a year and a half ago or something like that she accomplished that. I've got other people that I've seen who are thriving in their businesses, people who are thriving in new roles, working for government, the mayor's office of major cities. Shout out to Atlanta. You know who I'm talking about. Miss working for the mayor down there. I've got, people that I've seen who have also climbed higher with their professions, who've climbed higher in the military, becoming, going from enlisted to officer, people who have been in the military for a very short amount of time, who have climbed the ranks. And I've seen people have success also in their personal lives, outside of their professional lives and education, reaching goals with their health, fitness. I mean, big things, doing, show competitions, people who are seeing 10-year anniversaries. Shout out to my parents who are on their, 42nd year? I hope I didn't mess this up. Yeah, 42nd year, right? That's big. These are a lot of things. These are a lot of great accomplishments. And I want to take the time to shout you all out, because you all are important. Your lives matter. You are meaningful. And if you are listening to this wondering why you're not at that point or how you're going to get to that point. Something that was revealed to me and confirmed to me through a conversation I had with one of my leaders at work. You know, there were some things going on with my records that I wasn't sure of, and I thought they were going to prevent me from having a chance to get promoted. And we were having a discussion about things. And in my eyes, I felt like I was very deserving of the promotion. And, this particular leader, we haven't really worked together much. And so he didn't really know much about what I had done. Now, remember, I have been where I was in the same place basically at work for 10 years, give or take a few months when I briefly worked outside of my work place of work in different spots. But I had been there a long time. In the military, 10 years in one place is like 100 years anywhere else. Okay, but if I had to put that in real numbers, 10 years working in one place, in one squadron in the military, or at one base in the military, or 11 years is kind of like the equivalent of someone who's been at your job or a job for 25 to 30 years, right? Like, that's a very long time because people move around a lot. And so because of that movement that is so often happens in the military, I was one of the people who was there and had seen other people cycle in and out. So when you see so many people cycle in and out, naturally you have to understand that everyone who is there currently didn't necessarily know the things that I had done in the past because they weren't there, right? And to be honest with you, the military is a very what have you done for me lately organization. They don't care what you accomplished 2 years ago. They barely care about what you accomplished last year. Now, those things can be captured on your records, but they want to see the buzz phrase that they love to use, sustained performance, which means you have to keep on performing at a high level in order to progress. Okay? So me and this leader, we were having a discussion about, why was it that, or him just giving me his outlook on what it takes to be promoted, and him telling me a little bit of his story of where he got to where he was in his position and some of the things he were able to accomplish. And, one of the things, we probably talked for about 40 minutes or so. And one of the things that came up during that discussion was him telling me about the journey it takes to be promoted. Now, this is not a hard, fast, rule. This isn't a thing that has to be true every time. But I think this is a good guide that anyone who is trying to accomplish anything can use. And that anything can be your personal life, professional life, education goals, whatever it is that you're trying to do. He said that the journey for most promotions in the Air Force are about 2 to 3 years. And I will say some of the numbers, some of the things he threw out there, I don't necessarily agree with, but you got to understand everything is based on perspective and experience. And he was giving me his perspective and his experience, and I have my own perspective and experience, okay? But for the most part, when you are talking about, and actually I want to say he said 3 to 4 years, honestly. And that makes sense once you start getting to the higher levels of at least the Air Force. I know the other branches can be a little bit different. They tend to promote a little bit quicker. But in the Air Force, those higher levels, once you're talking about E7 through E9, these aren't typically ranks that most people get their first time trying. And because you have to wear your previous rank for at least 2 years, you're already 2 years in the hole. even if you get it your first time, you understand what I'm saying? It's going to take you at least 3 years, somewhere around that time. So give or take, a few months or whatnot. So with that being said, it made me really think about all of the things that I saw people around me accomplishing. Y'all stay with me now. I got a point here. Just stay with me, okay? I promise you, I got a point here. It really made me think about all the things that the people around me were accomplishing. And if you understand my story, you have to know that for the last 2 or 3 years or so, things have been a little bit frustrating for me because I was in kind of a odd space with my career because I wasn't flying and I was trying to, find what the Air Force had for me, whether it was being in the Air Force or out of the Air Force. And so, if you go back and listen to, or if you're familiar, everything started with a Achilles injury that I had. That changed my life. And I've talked about how that changed my life personally and professionally. But that Achilles injury actually changed my life. And for the better. I'll say for the better. Different, but better. And so for the last couple of years, especially, it's definitely been a journey trying to get to this point of where I am now. And so I thought about all of the people around me who have accomplished these things that they've accomplished. And I look back at that conversation I had with my leader, and I came to a conclusion. And that was many things, or a lot of things, that we want to do and accomplish on a higher level, right? These goals that we have for ourselves can take 2 to 4 years if you start now. Okay? Now, I don't want you to be discouraged when I say that. And I want you to understand, when I talk about 2 to 4 years, I'm not saying that you can't go and accomplish something in 3 weeks or 4 months, right? There are plenty of things that you can do that are significant that you can accomplish in less than 6 months. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying every single thing you accomplish has to take 2 to 4 years. But I want to give you a little bit of perspective, because sometimes we get so caught up on the end result that we are discouraged and we forget about how important the journey is. Because in that 2 to 4 years that you can be taking to either get your master's degree, or if you're in the military, commission, or win a bodybuilding competition, or whatever it is you want to do. I'm just throwing out, random things. There's a journey along the way. And many of us, we stop doing things that are good for us, or that we desire, or that we want to accomplish, because we get frustrated with the timelines and what it takes to get there. I once read in a book that anything is possible as long as you are willing to take the steps to get there. And if you are able to rewire your mindset to accept that and understand that, you'll realize how powerful of a statement that is, because at the core of it, you understand that you can literally accomplish anything. You just got to be willing to go through the steps. And many of us aren't really willing to go through the steps. And if we are willing to go through the steps, we become a little discouraged with the timeline. Okay? So how does this apply to me in my situation? Well, I'll tell you. I was in a predominantly a squadron full of aviators. That means that it was people who we flew, pilots, loadmasters, engineers, right? Flyers, people who get on the plane, you go from one place to the other. If you know the job, cool. If you don't, I'm not going to sit here and explain all of these in detail. Just know that we were going get on the plane. We go from one place to the other. That was our job. We did that. Cargo people, things like that, deliver things. When in my situation, I was unable to do that anymore for mainly medical reasons. I'm fine. I'm good as I cough. I promise you, me coughing right there had nothing to do with what was going on. Like I said, this all started with an Achilles injury. And so during my time, while I was going through the processes and the steps and all of those other things in order to get my career in order, I was still working towards a goal that was seemingly unattainable. Because in my career field specifically, it was very hard to promote. It was very hard to get to that next level from at least from E6 to E7. Out of like 100, I want to say 130, 140 people last year, I want to say they promoted 5. The year before that, 4. Recently, they promoted 8, I think, or something to that nature. But if you do the math, that's not a lot. If you're only promoting, even at its peak, 8 out of 100, and let's call it 130 people, that's not a lot. And so in my position, they tell you, hey, it's not impossible to be in a flying squadron and get promoted, but it's really, 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 really difficult, right? It's very hard to do. Not impossible, but very, very difficult to do, because you have to understand that the top performers are typically the ones who are more directly involved with that mission. Not to say that I wasn't involved, but again, I wasn't on airplanes flying. And so what I did was I understood that I wanted to get to a certain place, a certain level, right? I understood that I wanted to progress. And so in the time, I lost a little bit of time. And I say I lost a little bit of time because that first year when this all started, I thought I was getting out of the military. I had the photo studio open. I was, at the time I was dating someone. I thought I was going to move the SoCal, LA area. I had a lot going on. And because I had that, I had one foot out the door. There were a lot of opportunities I missed and a lot of things that I got passed over for because, number one, the people in charge of me thought I was getting out and they didn't know what to do with me. And number two, I thought I was getting out and I didn't want much to do with anything. Well, come to find out, turning around, I decided I was going to stay in, largely driven by some decisions with my son and then, keeping it real, some financial decisions, right? Like, let's keep it real, right? Let's not sit out here in front. Let's keep it real. And so I decided to stay in. And in doing so, I kind of lost some time in that area where it was like, okay, you're in, you're out. And so therefore, when it was time for my performance report, it wasn't a bad performance report, but it wasn't anything that I felt like stood out, right? And, I've told some people that before, and they was like, well, really? And I'm like, yeah, when you look at it, it's not a bad performance report. It's actually a good performance report. But to my standard, it wasn't to what I thought was the best that I can do, right? It's kind of like when you get James, well, I'm not going to say James Harden. That's an old, outdated reference. Who's somebody who's out here who's balling? That's like if Luka or, I don't know, Shea or who want to just take an NBA player who's averaging 30 points a game. If he comes out here and only gives you 20 and people are like, he had a bad game. And it's like, this dude just scored 20 points in the NBA. You know how many people in the NBA scored 50 points or 40 points in all their high school games or whatever, and then they come into the NBA and they're scoring 9 points off the bench? Like, anyways, I digress. I don't want to digress too much. I had what I call an off year for me, right? It wasn't the greatest, right? And so what did I do after that? I knew I was going to be in. I knew that there was a place I wanted to get to. That first year, I already knew I was going to make E7. And I said, okay, I need to keep this thing moving. So what did I do? I kept at it. I did some more things. I performed. I turned up the heat. I performed better, right? I wanted to get after some more opportunities or whatever. So I did that. Next year, okay, once again, passed up for promotion. Now remember, I'm dealing with a career field where it's very, very hard to get promoted in. So I already knew this, and I already knew by this point, by that second year, I knew I was on my way out of that career field and into something else. It wasn't a matter of what, it was a matter of what, and it was a matter of when. What am I going to be doing, and when am I going to be doing it? But by that point, okay, understood. I'm not flying. It's a flying career field, but I still tried, right? I still did my best, right? Well, I feel like you can always do your best, but I still tried. I feel like you can always do better, but like I said, I did pretty good. Now, the last year, at this point, it was very clear that there was something else on the horizon. And because of that, what I told myself was, if I'm not going to be able to fly and contribute to this thing the way I want to, then I am going to do my damn best to do everything else I can do. I'm going to figure this thing out. So what did I do? I kept doing my responsibilities in the office, and not only that, doing more, looking out for the people who I worked with. There were plenty of days where I was in that office at 5 o'clock. There were plenty of days where I sent the guys under me home and I stayed there and finished the rest of the work. There are plenty of days where people had to go handle stuff with their car. And can I drop my girlfriend off to the airport? And I need to go do this and do that and yada, yada. And can I take leave? And I want to take leave and I want to take leave and all this, that, and the other. And you know what? As long as they gave me some good, solid work in the office, I said, don't worry. Go ahead and take care of your stuff. We'll figure everything else out. I had plenty of days when I was on call. On the weekend, people calling me at night on the weekend about stuff that could have been handled Monday morning. I had plenty of days like that. I went to all of the meetings that I had to go to that other people could have went to, right? Putting together trainings for people. Extra stuff that I didn't have to do, putting together guides for people, extra stuff that I didn't have to do. Explaining, having patience with people and trying to explain to them processes that were out of our hands, even when they were basically pretty much trying to yell at you or be disrespectful, and having to calmly talk to people and explain things with people. There are plenty of meetings I sat in with the commander and with the rest of the leadership. And on top of all of those things, because I wasn't able to fly and directly, contribute in a way that I could, I did as much of the other stuff that I could. Last year, I emceed 4 events. I emceed the Juneteenth celebration. I emceed the group change of command, which I was asked for by name to do that because I had emceed the Wing Annual Awards, and I emceed the gala, Air Force Ball, on top of sitting on the committee. And I also did a Wing Club Day, which I was on that committee, one of the people for that, which was for the comprehensive airman. What is it? It's basically something that the Wing Commander wanted to put together to get people together through like clubs and to help that social aspect as well as the support aspect through connecting through things that, people like to do and have in common and stuff like that. That's one of the things that I did. I helped out with somebody's retirement. I crafted a professional development from a conference I went to. I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but only about 60% of the things that I did made it on my performance report. And when there was opportunity for me to step up and to do more, I asked for it. I said, hey, let me step up into this role while these guys are gone. Let me perform and do this while these people are deployed, because that's something that's above my job title and outside of my job title. But let me do that so that not only I can contribute more, I can show you all that I'm capable of the next level. And on top of that, I also did first sergeant duties. If you're familiar with what it is, cool. If you're not, just know it's an extra duty, and it involves a lot of phone calls and a lot of taking care of people and showing up to people get a DUI. You got to show up and check them out of the jail, dealing with no contact orders, dealing with people who fail drug tests, having to deal with people who can't drive, all types of stuff. It was a lot. And I was doing that on the side because I was always around. So, the first sergeants knew that I was dependable and they could ask me to do that. Okay. So I didn't give you a rundown of everything. I gave a rundown of a lot of what I did. There was still much, much more that I did on top of my regular job. Because remember, I didn't just fill it with extracurriculars and education, right? I was also doing my primary duty. So I know that this discussion has gotten very military heavy with some jargon and some things. And if you're not in the military, you may not understand what's going on. Let me get to a point that we can all understand. In about 2 or 3 years, I knew where I wanted to be and where I wanted to go. And so, even though the odds were against me, I kept this thing going. I did more. I did what was asked of me, and I did more because I had a goal, and I knew the only way I was going to get to that goal was to show that I can do it, that I can perform at the next level. Even though I more than likely wasn't going to get promoted, I still did things in a way like I was going to get promoted because I understood that this was going to be a 2 to 3 year journey. I didn't know that in my head that it was a 2 to 3 year journey. I intrinsically understood it. And so that's why when I had that conversation with my leader, it all made sense. That light bulb came on and I was like, oh, okay, now this has all come together. I get it. And so how does that apply to you? Right? Because let me tell you, the reason I did get promoted was because, again, along this journey, a lot of people don't understand. I had to fight really, really hard to get a new job in the Air Force. They didn't just give that to me. There was a lot of calls and a lot of emails that I had to make to get that to happen because at first it looked like it wasn't happening. But God is good. And so when I got a new job in the Air Force, right, when they gave me a new job and now I went and learned how to do computer stuff, what did that do? It repositioned me in the stacking order, right? So that now I wasn't competing, or I didn't have to worry about the fact that I didn't fly. Now I could be looked at as a different job, right? And so what that did was that basically positioned things in a way so that I was able to get promoted. I didn't see that coming. I didn't know that was going to happen. But because I kept moving forward and understanding that this is something that I want, I've got to set myself up to do it, even if the odds are against me. Because I kept doing that, I was able to be successful in that aspect. Okay? You can accomplish anything if you're willing to take the steps. But understand that some of the things that you want to do, they're going to take time. Don't worry about how long it's going to take. Just understand that the journey, the process, what you're doing along the way, those things are going to pay off, and they're going to build you up. They're going to build you up intellectually. They're going to build you up emotionally. You're going to learn. You're going to become wiser, and you're going to know more, and you're going to meet people along the way, and you're going to have experiences. And I don't care what it is that you're trying to do that can take you 2, 3, maybe even 4 years to accomplish. It's a journey. And that's what's important. We don't live our lives from point to point. We live our lives every day. That's why what we go through to get to a certain point is so important. Because it's that process that builds us up. That way, when we get to where we're trying to get to, we can walk through the door like, I've arrived. You take this thing day by day and understand that if there's something you want to do, you got to start now. If you want that degree, you start now. If you want that body, you start now. If you want that relationship, that marriage, you start now. And don't worry about it taking 2 to 3 or 4 years. You learn from the journey, experience along the way. And these last 2 years or so, man, I'll tell you, it's been a blessing. I have met people who have been just, really awesome. I mean, during this whole time, I picked up bodybuilding, going to the gym every day, and DJing, right? I don't know if I talked about that in the last podcast. Yeah, I DJ. Been DJing since last summer, right? The contacts that I've made, people that I've ran into professionally, outside of the military, inside of the military, that who you know that's a big thing. We've been preaching this for years because it's true. People aren't just saying that just to say that. It's so true. I'm telling you the journey and the wisdom. I'm not perfect. I don't pretend to be. I do boneheaded stuff. I'm working on it. I've made some bad decisions. I'm working on it. But Lord knows I am much more wiser than I was before, because along the journey, I'm living and I'm learning. And you got to be willing to do that. It's okay if something's going to take a while to accomplish. Start now. Start now. Embrace the journey. Give yourself 2 to 3 years to be able to do something. Say, this is what I want to do, and work towards it. And if that thing changes along the way, that's fine. Because even if it does change along the way, you still learned. You still became better. And you still accomplished something. I'd rather somebody who went through 10 years of medical training and couldn't make it for the last couple or whatever, or couldn't get through their residency. I guarantee you that person is a heck of a lot more qualified to stitch someone up in an emergency than someone who's just been watching Grey's Anatomy. And I say that to say that even if you start a process and you're not able to get through the whole thing, you still have learned or accomplished a heck of a lot more than someone who didn't. And you still learned. You're still able to get there, man. People talk about disgraced athletes or athletes who didn't make it all the way or this, that, and the other. Y'all don't think Greg Oden will get out here and give you 20 points or 30 points in LA Fitness, look up who that is. Yeah, I don't think that boy, what's his name? That football player. Johnny Manziel. Y'all don't think Johnny Manziel can get out here and throw 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns on you in your flag football game? Sometimes starting the journey, even if you don't get to where you need to get to, will still make you better and still put you a heck of a lot farther than everyone else around you. So what do you got to lose? I'm not saying go and invest all your money in Bitcoin or some sort of a thing that's going to set you back for years and years. If you got to invest in yourself, that's fine. Be smart about it. Make sure you can. That's okay. I'm not saying throw away your whole life on one goal, and enjoy the journey along the way. Learn more about yourself. Meet people. Become a better person. That's what this show is all about. Actualizing your potential, becoming better, being better. Think about it. I've been blessed. It's a lot more I got to do. Job's not finished. A lot more I got to accomplish in all aspects of my life. But I'm here. I'm on the start of this journey. And I got some goals that I'm going to keep a little bit here for now that I want to accomplish, that I'm giving myself a little bit of time to do. And along the way, I'm going to enjoy the journey. And so should you. Ladies and gentlemen, all my people, thank you for listening to this episode of Radio with Gibbs. I'm aiming for consistency. Show is going to mainly stay what it is, but I'm always open to change, and as we go on, we're going to have this thing evolve the way that needs to. Still need a co-host. Joy, co-host 3000, I miss you. Hope you and I forgot the young man's name, but I think he's your fiance now. They might even be married. I gotta check on that. But last time I saw, she's doing well. But yeah, hope everything is going well. Yeah, we trying to do this thing. If you're interested in being a co-host, hit me up. Auditions are tough. I'm not gonna lie to you, but hopefully we can find someone so you guys just don't have to listen to me and my perspective. But hey, it is what it is. We gonna keep this thing going. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm coming out with a new outro. The thing with the trains, unless somebody hits me up and they're like, keep the trains thing going, we gonna do something a little bit different. So anyways, the journey starts now. 2 to 3 years. Let me know what y'all want to hear about next. If not, we're gonna keep doing whatever we are inspired by. I appreciate y'all all. Thank you so much for tuning in to Radio with Gibbs. Y'all be good. Y'all be great, because y'all some great people. And thanks for tuning in to Radio with Gibbs.